Hey, I'm Zane Carney, and you're listening in time.
Welcome yet again to another episode of In Time. If this is your first time checking us out, we've done some episodes with Domi, JD Beck, Mark Lethierry, Adam Neely, Manuel Gardner Fernandez from Unprocessed. That's just to name a few. We've got a few more coming out. We've got this episode you are streaming into if you're checking this out on Twitch. This episode will be out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and pretty much any podcasting platform you can think of from a week from today. So yeah, I guess today, Zane Carney is a fantastic guitarist. Had the opportunity to work with some huge names in the States, Avril Lavigne, U2, Justin Timberlake, John Mayer, and so much more. I want to start with jazz. You're a jazz guitarist. We're big fans of
Yeah,
jazz.
me too.
We like to think we could play it. I don't know. I was just going on a rant to Joe about, Joe, how do you phrase again?
I love that. How do you phrase? Yes, I am. I started as a jazz guitarist, and then have found myself in all manner of oddities in the music industry, from co-writing to being a solo artist to playing with big bands to playing on Broadway. I've been very, very fortunate, and jazz as the foundation has allowed me to have that flexibility. Because in studying jazz, as you both know, you get to learn way more than just jazz, right? We learn the fundamentals of harmony and melody and musical conversation. So I've been really, really fortunate, and yeah, I guess we'll get into some of it today.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, clearly, we've seen a lot of your videos. And I remember the first time I introduced you to Amir was on Instagram after the initial email I sent you. I showed him one of your clips. And before the clip even finished, he had to tell me to pause it. And he followed you straight away and said, "Oh my God, this guy's a bit too good," is what he said.
Oh, wow, that's nice of you to say. Well, you and my mom would agree. I'm not sure if anyone else would, but thank you. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into a bit of jazz then. Let's tell us a bit about how you started and how you got into jazz as a genre. I mean, obviously you can play so many styles, but as we're music, we like to call ourselves musicians as well. We both study in university,
Great.
and we both study jazz on our own time when we can.
Great.
So, how did you get into it?
Yeah, well, I started my creative ventures as an actor. I was a child actor. I moved out to LA, and my whole family unfortunately had to get uprooted from New York City because of this sitcom I was on. So at that time, I was not taking to music as much as my older brother Reeve, who's an incredibly talented musician. Nor was I taking as much as my younger sister Paris, who's an incredible songwriter. Just had a huge song come out today with an artist she wrote for. She's just doing so well. Yeah, acting felt natural to me as a child. It came naturally. I enjoyed it. It wasn't until I was about probably 10 that I started buying my own music. I had a little bit of allowance money. And I think the first cassette I ever bought was Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson's Scream. So I bought that. Then about a month later, I went to The Wiz in New York City and bought, what did I buy? Mariah Carey's album, the one with the rainbow on it. And then after that, I bought Jordan Knight. So I got really interested in R&B music as a young kid. Whereas my family, they were all into Beatles and classical, not classical, I shouldn't say that, Beatles, classic songwriters. So yeah, I noticed at a young age that I had a slightly different music taste and that I liked acting. I don't know how it all panned out, but about around 12 years old, I discovered Wes Montgomery, and that completely changed my life. I told my mom, "Why didn't you guys ever tell me about this music?" She said, "What does he make?" I said, "He's jazz." "Oh, okay, great, good, good." I said, "No, Mom, you don't get it. This is exactly how my brain communicates and thinks. This is the first music I've ever heard that really understands me." And then I started looking back at the Jordan Knights and the Mariah Careys and the Michael Jackson. I'm like, oh, there's secondary dominance. Oh, there's tritone substitution. There's, oh, turnarounds. So around 12 or 13, I discovered, oh, the reason why I loved R&B is because I loved communicating in an improvisational way as an actor or musician. And jazz is how I'll do that in music. So I just took off at 12 and became the nerdiest of nerds, buried myself in music theory books, and here we are today.
Well, this is the beauty of jazz, right? I'm very adamant that everyone makes their own journey, not even through jazz, just through music, any genre that they're into. Just make your own journey through it. Like, you don't necessarily have to listen to something that's popular or within that genre just because everyone else knows that band. I'm maybe that makes me stubborn, but things like I listen to less like Miles Davis and Bill Evans probably than a lot of other jazz people. But Wes Montgomery, Gordon Dexter, I just love stuff like that as well. Which is it's such a great thing, just exploring that genre.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, and I think what was so nice, I was talking to my roommate yesterday, who you guys should have on the podcast one day. His name's Charles Jones. He sings with Wolfpack and does Scary Pocket stuff, and he's just out of control. I used to tour with Joss Stone, Raphael Sadiq. He's now Andrew Day's MD. He's just an incredibly special musician. And we discovered that we had a very similar childhood musically. We were both saying how much we loved Jordan Knight's single. You guys are too young to have heard it probably. I think it was called I don't know. Did you? What was it? He said I turned you on, inside, turning around in my head. Give It to You. It's called Give It to You, and it starts off with autumn leaves changes, literally in the same key, 2-5-1-4, 2-5-1 to the relative minor, and then there's a moment with like a diminished chord, like a secondary leading tone chord to the 5 chord. That it's just an incredible song harmonically, and songs like that. The idea of really navigating a more elegant and a more elevated conversation musically excited me. And so I love what you said about, Dexter Gordon or Miles Davis and those guys, or Wes Montgomery. Yeah, when someone's navigating improvisationally, there's nothing like that for me. And the fact that I've been given an opportunity by my parents, my mom especially, to have guitars so I could explore that myself, I'm incredibly privileged and lucky. I think of someone like Jacob Collier, who his mom was a music educator. I had a mom who was just a dream weaver. She just believed in all of our dreams and said, "You're going to be the best guitar player who ever lived." I'm like terrible. I'm like 11, awful. "You're going to be the best, and you just go have fun." I'm very lucky in that way. And I try to, I don't know. We'll get into a bunch of stuff. There's so much fun stuff to talk about, but I'm kind of stepping over myself because this is the first thing I've done today, and I'm a musician. I wake up late. Oh crap.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, you've actually helped segue this right exactly what we want to talk about next. I mean, you come from a very creative family by the sound of it, or a family that encourages
I'm very lucky,
which is it's so cool to hear. But how do you find this? So I always think of this, and maybe this is me overthinking music musicians in general, but nature versus nurture as musicians. Do you think people are just born musicians? So for me, I'm not from a musical background, but I don't know why I'm so drawn to it.
Nature versus nurture. Man, that's a good question. This is just an assumption. I mean, there's probably no evidence for this, but I have this feeling that one thing that makes human beings special is our capacity for creativity, and I think that's across the board. I mean, people solving solutions in tech industry or solving things in the steel industry 80 years ago, or innovation and creativity, I think are part of what what sets us apart as compared to other animals which seem to follow natural laws. Like, I'm a beaver, I build a dam. I'm a human, I write a song. Well, I'm a human, I cook a meal. I mean, as far as it pertains to this music specifically, I think there is some sort of probably genetic code that's passed down that's like, more likely to become an artist, But some of my favorite artists came from families of like accountants, So I don't think it dictates how talented someone will be. I think it maybe just increases the likelihood that someone will follow up in that path and explore it. But yeah, I mean, I keep saying I was so lucky. My dad was a jingle composer in New York City in the 80s and 90s, and my mom was a jewelry designer. So talk about being spoiled, right? And I have, we have friends in LA. I have a lot of friends in LA who, whether their parents were artists or they were wealthy or whatever it was, it allowed them to explore their art. I feel very lucky to have been someone that was allowed to explore it. And my hope is eventually, or maybe today, to help people who don't have that access, to encourage them. I do a lot of educational stuff on my Twitch channel, a lot of breaking down harmony, very Adam Neely, Jacob Collier-esque. So I really, I enjoy giving people tools so that I can get more people to have these musical conversations with, It's fun for me.
That's pretty cool. So I haven't had a chance to tune into your Twitch streams. I suppose I'm like the reverse musician, I guess. I actually like my mornings.
Wow, God bless you. We need you.
I used to actually wake up at like 6 or 7 in the morning. I can't do that anymore though.
You know, may
I'm
I
not that kind of
quickly
person.
just speak to that?
Yeah.
So there's this cool scientific, I forget where it was. It was an article I was reading, and it spoke to how some people are naturally early birds and others are natural night owls. But it talked about anthropologically why that may be. And one reason they think is when we were humans 300,000 years ago in tribes, someone had to stay up at night to make sure a cougar or tiger didn't eat us. And those people passed down genetic code that said we are better at staying up late. And then other people had to wake up early to make sure the wolf didn't eat them in the morning. So apparently genetically there are different predispositions, and I certainly am a night owl. And we need people like you. So God bless, man. I can't wait to hear your opus that you're going to write at 6 a.m. Let's go.
Well, I've started sleeping in, so maybe maybe the the wolves will get us now. But this is what COVID does to you, right? It ruins the sleeping pattern.
It really does.
Yeah.
What's COVID?
But
okay. Yeah, it's just the craziest year.
It's a myth.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, myself and Joe, we've been like checking out your music, but it's really cool, like what you're doing with Twitch as well. So I'm guessing you sort of do you go through like standards and?
That's a good question. Yeah, we do a few different things. The main thing my channel does now is a thing called live learns. So a live learn is someone donates anywhere between $25 and $1,000, which you'd be surprised. Like someone donated $500 last week to do a very specific live learn. So it depends on how long it'll take me to get through it. But a live learn on my Twitch streams is I pull out my iPad Pro. It comes up on screen. You see it right next to my face. Or actually, I make it the whole screen. I'm a little picture-in-picture in the bottom. And you watch me in real time transcribe the song without a guitar in my hand. I just do it by ear because that's a tool that I had to develop to make a career in music. So I transcribe the harmony, make a quick little lead sheet. Then I pull up the lyrics if it's a song with lyrics, and I learn the melody. And usually within 25 minutes to, well, depending on how long the song is, an hour or 2 hours, I sing back that song to the person. Some people have sent in very challenging instrumental pieces. The $500 Ultra Live Learn we did a couple weeks ago was an Emerson, Lake and Palmer, a 20-minute Emerson, Lake and Palmer tune called Tarkus. It's a 20-minute song. It took me a long time, which is why it was an Ultra Live Learn. It took me 5 hours. Because they're a prog rock band, essentially an advanced through composed jazz group that happens to be playing rock kind of voicings, sort of, not really. And so it's kind of an educational channel. So in some sense, it's watching a magic trick happen. How fast can he learn it? Can he learn it in time? And in the other sense, I talk about all the analysis. Okay, so here's a 2-5-1 that's happening a whole step below. So that it's actually a minor 4 chord to a borrowed chord, a secondary dominant 7 chord, which is dominant, resolving to a 1 major. So this is a Wes Montgomery type turnaround. This is called a backdoor turnaround. And I'll talk about it as I'm doing it in real time. So it's sort of performative, sort of educational. And I think that's kind of become the bread and butter of the Twitch channel. And it's led to me collaborating with this wonderful streamer named Destiny. He's a huge streamer on Twitch. And he's doing a composition challenge right now. And I'm one of the judges. And so we've been going through the songs, and he gives his expertise as someone who loves music and studied it quite a bit. And then I give my expertise as someone who's actively in the arts, working as a full-time musician. So it's fun. I mean, and if I may, I'm being really verbose. I tend to be that. I'm sorry. But I have this vision of when I'm 75, 80 years old and I stop performing live, maybe 90, who knows. I have this vision of being the head of the music theory program at USC. I love LA. I kind of was raised here, even though I'm from New York. That's kind of my dream, is to, retire from performing and go into full-time teaching. So the groundwork's sort of being laid on Twitch right now, and I'm really excited about that.
That actually sounds so cool what you're doing. I mean, I'll probably try and check it out more often because I didn't know this was a service that could be available through Twitch, and actually that's pretty sweet. I mean,
it's really fun, yeah.
Yeah, and Destiny, I'm pretty sure he used to be a StarCraft player.
Exactly. How do you know about that? Yeah, he's a huge StarCraft player.
I'm a big gamer. I never played StarCraft, but yeah.
We got to have you on our stream. You're like the perfect Venn diagram of what we do on my channel. So the live learn has become this real specific thing that I do that other people don't really do. Yeah. And I guess that's the important thing on Twitch. Like, what makes you unique? And there are only a few people that probably are interested in what I am. And again, Jacob Collier comes to mind, Rick Beato comes to mind, Adam Neely comes to mind. The only reason why I haven't been doing this the past 6 years publicly is because I was touring with Johnny Lang or May or whoever else, and doing my solo stuff. But because of the pandemic, I'm going, well, I guess now I'm starting what Adam started on YouTube, I'm doing on Twitch, basically, in a slightly different way. So anyway, we're video game nerds too. So
Definitely.
on tour, I had a Switch. I'm a huge Nintendo fanboy, and I played Mario Tennis Aces way too much on tour to where I was playing on Twitch. I was playing little Mario Tennis, and someone said, "Yo, dude, did you know you're ranked nationally?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." So I clicked in the rankings, which I had never clicked on. I'd just been addicted to it on tour. It turned out I was like the number one ranked Rosalina main player in the world and the number like 20 to 25th player in North America. I'm like, what? I should have been playing music, not playing this game. But point is, we're video game nerds here too. Like I play that game. I play I played a little bit of Paper Mario. I'm going to be, today on my stream after your guys' podcast, we're going to be doing a segment I do called Music Theory of Gaming, where I analyze either new exciting games or retro vintage games. And today we're doing Cyberpunk 2077 in anticipation of its release next week. So yeah, man, come on down, man. You got to hang, man.
Yeah. Mate, I love video game music theory as well. So like 8-Bit Theory, I just watch that channel all the time. But
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll go back to like, about teaching and learning through Twitch. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I learned, and it's something that has to be worked on every day incrementally. Just like you said, ear training and singing what you can play, singing what you want to play. Like, so you bridge that gap between your brain and the fretboard or whatever instrument people choose. It's so important, and I used to really underestimate it before. I used to think, oh well, it's not really that important, is it? Just need to play. But to be honest, not playing is better sometimes. Just singing it.
Absolutely, and it to me it would be similar to conversation with someone. If I were to, let's say I don't want to just say I love you because that's so standard. I want to say it in a unique way. Well, I could just say I love you if that's the only vocabulary I have. But what if I had a more intense vocabulary? What if I had a more nuanced vocabulary? What if the way I said I love you was I bought their favorite like ice cream and then dropped it off of their doorstep with a note saying thinking about you? That's a different way of saying love you. It's passive sort of, but it's much more active in the person's heart. So that's how I feel about being able to play on the fretboard what I hear in my mind. I go, okay, if all I can do is repeat licks I've heard other people play, that's cool. That's mimicry. That's exciting. Doing impersonations is something that's fun. Quoting in the jazz world's a fun, goofy thing. But what if I had a feeling, because I'm a unique individual, that was different than what anyone had played before, and by playing it, it would be equal parts unique and different, and also relatable, because the people listening would go, "Oh, I felt that feeling, but I've never heard it musically." So I find it really important to be able to bridge that gap. And that being said, I'm continually working on that. I have developed my relative pitch to a degree that's pretty consistent. But I don't have perfect pitch. So I'm like, I'm not Dylan, Rick Beato's son. I wish I were. I'm not. I'm not Jacob Collier, who I believe has perfect pitch. I'm not even my roommate Charles Jones, who has perfect pitch. But I do have relative pitch pretty developed. So yeah, I mean, there are times where I sing a melody in my head and I'm convinced I'm singing an A natural. I'm like, once I play it, I go, that's D because I forgot we modulated down a fourth. So yeah, anyway, that happens quite a bit.
No, that's awesome. I mean, obviously we've had Adam Neely on the show, and he's an incredible musician as well. But I'd love to talk some more about people like Jacob Collier, because that guy is just changing the world at the moment.
I'm so excited that his record is nominated for. It's just incredible.
Exactly.
Album of the year.
In 2020, how we've got
So
Jacob
cool.
Collier. So proud of that guy. But he just defines the whole thing about color is so beautiful in music. The more color you can add to a chord, to more full the harmony. I don't know. I'm all for that. All of the incredible choices that he makes. But
yes,
obviously
I'm equally enamored. Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible. And we spoke earlier about being brought up in a musical family, and like you said, his mother is Susie Collier, who's an incredible musician as well.
Yes.
But he has kind of taken it to another level. How far do you think that guy can go? And like, what?
Oh,
is
man,
there anyone that can beat him?
Yeah, well, two things. I mean, I think anyone can take it to the level he's taken it to if they care enough. The beautiful thing Jacob has is he cares so much, and he's shared a little bit of his personal life story, and I'm more interested in that in some ways than I am in the dunking he's able to do. Right, like he's able to win a game and dunk like he's like a LeBron James. But I'm interested in where that comes from, because the great poets and authors and artists and musicians of our time often have a story that propelled them into that level of care. Maybe there are times in our childhood where we're not cared for enough or cared in the way we'd like, and that turns into, well, I'm going to care about this as much as I wish I would have been cared for. And I'm not saying that's his story. I'm saying I'm excited to know more about how he ticks, and I am really excited about the music he's going to be making in the next 30, 40, 50 years, because right now, you're right, it's so lush and full of so many colors. Yeah, but I also love the moments when there's absence, in his songs. I love that push and pull, and that there are many ways to make a point, and I think right now he's making it in a beautifully lush, vibrant, exaggerated way. And I feel very confident in the next 5 years he's going to come out with like a one instrument record with one voice and one piano, sometime in the next 5 years, to explore that part of the conversation. And to kind of put a bow on this idea, to me, it's sort of like this. I've been talking rapidly at you guys for 20 minutes now, right? What if I were to go, well, I love music. We just totally changed the energy in this conversation, right? From a lot of information to you guys took me in. And I think there's something to be said for explosion of harmony, and there's something to be said for exploding it, going from a, whatever. Oh, what's the next melody going to be after all those sharp 9 flat 5 chords, So I like all of it. And for me, it's always more about the intention and the end goal than it is exploring, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say right now. I'm saying I love and I'm enamored by him. And I love that he's aware of all these different push and pulls. That's probably the most beautiful thing. And I don't know. I kind of ran out of gas there. There's another way of talking. Running out of gas is another way of communicating.
No, of course. And one of the things that Amir was pointing out to me before we started this whole call, we were listening to your live album recently. One of the first things he said was that it's got massive Jeff Buckley vibes. And
oh yeah, I love him.
I heard that and I thought, wow.
Yeah.
So true. And we listened to your album and it's on that level. And Jeff Buckley to me is the greatest musician that's ever lived.
Wow, you and I are soul brothers. Wow, cool.
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you there.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley is unbeatable. Maybe by Jacob Collier, but
right.
So is Jeff Buckley one of your influences as well?
He is. He's one of probably 5 or 6 heavy influences as a vocalist. As a guitarist, it would be Wes Montgomery, Jimmy Page, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, Django Reinhardt. Those would probably be the 4 that I tend to list the most. But a lot of people hear Joe Pass in my solo guitar playing, so I don't know. But I love a lot of those guys. Vocally, it would be Katie Lang, the ingenue herself. It would be Jeff Buckley. It would be Freddie Mercury. It would be Steven Tyler. And I'm remembering now, Joe Perry's a huge influence for me as well, guitarist. Yeah, I mean, what I love about Jeff was, God, rest in peace to this wonderful genius of a man. They're similar to Jacob. There was so much care that seemed to go into all aspects of it. And I relate to that level of curiosity. I think that's another element that Jacob has that I relate to, is that just infinite curiosity. How's that work? And so when it comes to singing, that's a wild comment you just gave me that I remind you of Jeff. I wasn't always like that. I wasn't even a singer until about 7 years ago, but I was really curious about it. And I worked on it, and I discovered I had an issue in my throat, and I had to get surgery from a birth defect that we had never discovered. And once I got that, then I could train my voice. And then since then, I started training my compositional skills, and then my orchestration and arranging, and then looping, and then guitar, So I'm just curious about all this stuff, and I guess that's why people compare me to Jeff, because he really cared about guitar, he really cared about composition, and he really cared about singing. And I care about all those 3 elements equally as well. So maybe that's what people pick up on. Also, I'd like to sing in my upper range. That's very, very castrato.
It sounds great. And you mentioned there in your influences Django Reinhardt, and that, I don't know if you noticed, but that took my interest straight away. I call myself a jazz musician, but I'm primarily a gypsy jazz musician.
No way! Cool,
Yeah.
hot
Joe,
jazz,
pull out the
cool,
guitar.
man.
Joe, pull out your guitar.
I'm not pulling out my guitar.
You better hit me some minor 6 chords. I want some minor 6. I want some augmented natural 2s. Let's go. Do you ever use this? Do you ever use this voicing? This is the Django voicing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's the augmented with the natural 2. I love that.
I'm working on at the moment randomly a gypsy jazz version of Blue and Green.
Ooh.
which is my favorite ever standard.
Oh wow, we really have some similar tastes. I can see why too, because if you like Jeff Buckley, yeah, there's a big difference between these fleshed out 13 chord sort of Debussy Ravel thing, and this like there's a random sharp 11 somewhere, which Blue and Green obviously the melody note starts on that sharp 11, and Jeff Buckley would employ that. He'd be doing this sort of like which doesn't sound like a jazz chord exactly, but it kind of is. It's just a different type of voicing, and so Blue and Green has that sort of. It's not, yeah, wow, that's a beautiful song, man. I've played that song quite a bit in my life. I love that piece.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. But yeah, gypsy jazz. So you a big gypsy jazz player as well, then?
Not really player, but appreciator. I think I've never quite gotten into mimicking one artist, even Wes Montgomery, who I love.
Yeah.
And I must say, I love his earlier stuff. I'm not a smooth jazz, that era Wes lover, although I appreciate it because I just love him. But I'm into his like playing over impressions at 280 beats per minute, blowing people's minds away. And his work on Smoking at the Half Note with the Wynton Kelly Trio or Full House. I love that song, SOS. In fact, I have a gig coming up, I think a couple days before this is released, your podcast, on Monday. The set I'm playing is my favorite songs. And one song I'll be playing is a Wes Montgomery piece called SOS, which is one of my favorite jazz pieces. I lost track on so Django. So yeah, I mean, I just love when someone has that level of passion. It could be a horn player, it could be a guitar player, and Django certainly had that on the guitar. I have a Gitan guitar you're seeing right behind me in frame up there. Yeah. So I have a hot jazz guitar, but I wouldn't call myself a hot jazz player. Although you guys did some wonderful research into my music, I'm not sure if you stumbled upon my old band Carney throughout that process.
Yep.
There's a song called Amelie, which is the song that really shows my love of Django Reinhardt, I'd say. And Les Paul. I love both them.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. We had a guy on our podcast a few months ago now called Ollie Soy Kelly, who's the guitarist in the Rhythm Future Quartet. Incredible gypsy jazz player. But I don't know if you've ever checked out, I'm not sure, I don't want to butcher his name, but Josho Stefan.
Is he a violinist? Who is he?
So he's a French guitarist, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And he's absolutely unbelievable. The best gypsy jazz chops.
He's
I've
just
ever
the
seen.
dude.
He's the
Wow.
dude. Love to get him on. Yeah, but I'm just a big fan of that kind of music, and I didn't realize you had a passion for that as well.
Yeah, I just love anything that really hits me in the hardcore, not hardcore. That's gonna get me. So that usually the music I listen to for enjoyment is gonna be 1920s to 30s jazz, like hot jazz, that stuff. I'll listen to Debussy or Ravel, that era of impressionism. I'll listen to romantic era composers. I'll listen to Dvorak. I'll listen to my former theory teacher Morton Lauridsen's work with the Los Angeles Master Chorale. I'll listen to the Bulgaria Female State Television and Radio Choir. I like to listen to songs that I'll listen to Gustav Holst. These are the sort of things I listen to for enjoyment. Yeah, so as long as it doesn't have to be fully dense, 18 freaking melody notes at once or whatever, semitones stuff. But as long as it hits me and is not attempting to do any sort of mimicry, but is staking its own claim, I'll get excited. And Django really was a pioneer, actually. A lot of people call it a genre. It's like, it's just Django, and then people went, that's cool. He was part of a tradition, of course, but he really took it to a level that was so out of control amazing. Anyway, yeah, that's cool that you love that stuff, Joseph. I love that stuff, too.
I mean, yeah, he was awesome. The fact that he did it all with 2 fingers
God,
as well. we're all here making excuses.
Dude, I can't even do it with 8 fingers, man. I can't even do that stuff.
Yeah. It is absolutely insane. I want to talk about your 2018 album, You're Live in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, like, such a beautiful place. I actually was I was in Tokyo 2018.
Cool.
But yeah, towards the back end, don't know when that was recorded, but I mean, yeah, what do you think of Tokyo or Japan?
Yeah, I love Japan so much. Yeah, we talked briefly about the video game stuff. I grew up being a huge just Nintendo fan and Sega. I had all the systems. I was so spoiled and lucky in that regard. Being a child actor does afford you certain things like, we have the business expenses. Let's get a Sega Genesis. Oh my God, as an 8-year-old kid getting a Sega Genesis, so lucky. Not to say my parents didn't buy that for me. I'm just saying, there are certain. I was very lucky as a kid to have the systems. So that eventually turned into loving that TV show Full Metal Alchemist. Like I got way into that show, and so I just love so many of the pieces of art and entertainment, I guess, that Japan's produced. So I started going there in 2017 as a solo artist because I had toured with John Mayer there and we played Budokan. And there was a venue in the area that said, hey, you want to come by and play a solo set of your original music before the John Mayer gig? Yeah, sure. So the day before that gig I played, and we had about 100 people there, and then that turned into them just telling their friends. And so I've been going to Japan every year since, I guess, since 2016 or 17. And then, long story short, I've really focused way too much on touring my solo music the past 6 years. So the stories of my music are more audio. Oh, we lost audio for a second.
Yeah, just for a second.
Sorry, we're back now.
That's all right.
So I don't mean to use this term I'm about to use at all in a positive sense. The term legend, not that I'm a legend or my shows have been legendary, but the legend in the sense of my shows have been like word of mouth. Like, oh, I saw that night and no one ever heard it. And that's a mistake I've made, to be frank. I have a lot of friends who've actually been on your podcast or probably who will be in the future, who I talk to, every couple of months, and they're like, when's your next actual record coming out? I go, oh yeah, it's been 6 years, and oops. So that's a mistake I've made that I need to rectify immediately. Because I have a lot of songs that no one's ever heard. So this Live in Tokyo thing was me going to Japan. I didn't realize how many years it'd been since I recorded. I'm sitting here being kind of grumpy going, why have I not really gotten out there? It's like, oh right, I haven't recorded the freaking songs that only people at live shows have heard. So the promoter in Japan said, you should just release some bootlegs, just release something. So I said, well, we recorded shows here last year. Let's just put those out. So they're just unedited live performances. And I'm hoping 2021 I get my act together. I had all intentions of making this year about releasing my solo music, and then the pandemic hit, and I just went into sort of panic, like and as we all did,
No, everything went everything went to a mess.
It did. But as far as that record, it was just live performances from some sets, and I have a bunch of recordings that are so close to being done or already are done, and I've been wondering, do I shop this to a major label? I've tried to. I've gotten some interest there, but not anything that's been signed. Do I just release it myself? And then I don't know. So that record was just me trying to get something out there, to be frank.
Yeah. Well, with the whole label thing, that maybe is something we can talk about. But yeah, with that the whole Japan thing, Fullmetal Alchemist, I grew up on that as well, and then watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood as well, and then
I've watched every single thing they've ever made. Yeah, every film they've made, I'm all about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we could talk about anime as well. Oh, man.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we'll have to. I'll just have to be like a resident Twitch chat guy, and we'll just make chat. But
by the way, really quickly, I'm hoping it's not happening on your end, but there's a bit of fractalization digitally happening when you're talking. But I'm sure your recording's good.
Yeah,
okay, great, fantastic.
Right, yeah,
cool.
Just the whole culture in Japan, amazing. Just from anime, manga, just the arcades. I remember the last day we were there. I forgot what the little cards are that you use for your underground and stuff. The little passes you can get.
For your underground?
Yeah, but you can also use it on the arcade machines and the vending machines.
That's right, baby. That's a one-stop shop. Japan knows what they're doing.
That was the beauty of it, because I was like, oh right, okay, I've got about 20 quid left on this card here. Well, I'm flying out tomorrow. Let's just hit the arcades.
So great. So great.
But
I love it. Yeah, man, I love Japan. It's so great.
So this is the thing with live albums. So we hosted Mike Dawes just a month ago, and
he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, insane. Yeah, he's just ridiculously good on the acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he actually released a Live in USA album just about a month ago, and we were talking about the importance of live albums. Your album comes to mind. Jeff Buckley live at Chennai. I absolutely adore that album.
Don't even get me started.
It's 2.5 hours long, and I think I listened to it about 3 or 4 times in one day, and so you can just tell how I spend my days sometimes.
Yeah, but you spend your days correctly. That's amazing.
But live albums, they capture something very different to what a very produced album can do, and I think it's because I was trying to I was talking to Joe before earlier today, just trying to work out what it is, What is it about live albums? And I think it's because there's less to think about in terms of, there's these layers of harmonies going on, there's all this going on, just listening to music on you and the energy.
Yes, my girlfriend feels the same way. She loves the live performances. She's an absolute jazz, what's the phrase, I don't know what the phrase is when you love jazz so much that you know every artist. She knows way more artists than I do in the jazz realm.
Aficionado.
What was that?
A jazz aficionado.
Jazz aficionado. Thank you. Exactly. So she has these incredible playlists she makes that are just so good. But she's gotten me into Jason Moran, who I'm loving, and she has this song called Planet Rock on the playlist. It's the live version. There's something about the live version. And I've listened to both versions, and I agree with her. So yeah, I wonder if the live version, what you said, there's less thinking going on. It's right, going to the core, going to the gut instincts, not perfecting them. It's also nice to, how do I put this? It's nice to focus more on the meal than the garnish. You know, someone can hand me a meal, give me a Big Mac, you know, like a terrible, I mean, fine, you know, but like, here's a Big Mac, and they put all this garnish on, I'll go, wow, impressive. But then once I eat it, I go, oh, this is not very good. The presentation was tricking me. I think orchestration and arrangement is so important because it creates this well of feeling inside of us, but I'm really curious about the story usually, because I find that if I just hear great chords, but there's no real quote-unquote musical story, whether that's melody or lyrics, whatever, it's like a tech demo. It's like going on YouTube and seeing a bunch of tech videos. I don't know, would I prefer to watch a perfect Sony camera, 18 million megapixel tech demo of like flying overhead in a drone, or would I rather watch P.T. Anderson's There Will Be Blood shot on film, which is a little grainy? I'd certainly prefer the latter. I would say that there's artistic choice is being made there, first off, and second off, there's a story that ties it together. So those are my thoughts on that. Yeah, the idea of the. I actually forgot the question. I really walk myself off the ledge.
That was a perfect answer. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think it was even a question. It was just an open discussion about live albums and how much we love them.
Yes, thank you. So the live albums, I think, focus more on the story musically, in my experience.
Yeah. And I think this is the beauty of, I mean, say your live album and Jeff's live at Sinead one, where it's just, when it's just a guitar and a voice, there's nothing there keeping it strictly in time and everything, but that kind of just changes the whole groove of things in its own way.
Right. I'm with you. But that being said, I'm really excited about finally getting some recorded music out in the next couple of years. I actually have 2 records in the docket. Like that, one of them's totally mastered. It's a super intense jazz record. It's a new project I have called Zinc. Maybe I'll even play a piece of it on this stream right now, like 30 seconds. But it's pretty intense. It's the same rhythm section of the John DeVersa Big Band, and then this wonderful sax player named Katisse Buckingham in L.A. And it's pretty much free improv. I mean, we had a few heads, but mostly it was pretty free, and yet it sounds composed because we've all played together for so many years. And yeah, so that's coming up. But then I also have this song called I Want to Have Faith Again that I've had recorded, ready to go for 3.5 years. It's ready to go. It needs to get it maybe remixed, but it's ready to go. I have a song called Maybe I'm Young, been ready to go for 4 years. It's mixed by the wonderful and talented Bob Clearmountain. I mean, it's like I have these things ready, and I've just been trying to find the right way to release them and probably overthinking it, to be frank. But yeah, I am excited about the recordings, the proper ones, because I think people are going to be like, oh, that's right, that's what this guy does. Because I'm really, at my heart, I love singing, I love songwriting, I love all that, but I think probably my core passion is orchestration and composition and arrangement. So these recordings allow me to do those, not flex those muscles exactly, but reveal. I guess now I'm talking about the garnish. I get to put my garnish on it, which I do like doing.
So here's a question with the unreleased stuff, without saying or showing too much about it. What's different with it? What have you changed? So I think in your 2013 one is a lot darker, richer tones. But like,
I will say,
yeah.
May I quickly speak to that 2013 release?
Yeah.
So that release, it's called Confluence, and that came out as a 7-song EP, kind of a record, kind of an EP. That came out the day before we played Rock in Rio with John Mayer in 2013. And the idea was, all right, John has asked me to play guitar with him. I am so grateful. I am so lucky. My band Carney has just broken up. We had this whole idea of doing Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Broadway and going off to be the biggest next rock band. And we had all things lined up for that to actually be a plausible reality. Our last show as a band was opening for U2 on the final day of their 360 tour. So we were really going, had Interscope Records behind us, had a single called Forget About You that no one's ever heard except for our live shows. And we decided to part ways for a plethora of reasons. So Confluence to me was, all right, so our band broke up probably because we were too out there, too art rocked. People compared our band, Carney, to 4 things. They compared it to Jeff Buckley, Radiohead, Jack White, and the Beatles. I was like, you know what? That's not going to work. I need to do a solo record that's a little more digestible. So when I was writing Doesn't Matter Where We Go, Talk to Me Baby, my thinking was, okay, these can actually be on the radio and I can actually get out there. And then I put one song on the record that was totally just what I like, which was Fade to Black. So the rest of it was like, make it catchy. And then Fade to Black is just this 7-minute friggin', I don't even know what that song is. I don't even know what you call that genre of song, but it's not radio friendly for sure. So, yeah, so that record was me attempting to kind of grab something. I also had not had vocal surgery yet, so I was singing on a completely broken voice. And yeah, so there were a lot of, the intention was not right on that record, I think. It was, how do I get famous? How do I get out there? And what do I need to compromise to get there? And also, I don't know how to sing. And here we go. Here's the record. That being said, I am proud of some of those songs. I really am. This next record would be very different because it's coming from a much more holistic place. So, for example, I had a song called I Want to Have Faith Again that I had written. Tony Berg got involved, and he gave me some incredible feedback and commentary that changed the whole way I started writing songs. He said, and so did my friend, and this is a little bit name dropping, but since you had JD and Domi on, Stephen Bruner, known as Thundercat, we grew up together. And he's like, hey, man, so my question to you would be, do you love what you're hearing when you play this? And Tony Berg had said the same thing a week prior. I said, not really. He's like, yeah, man, my advice would be just do it until you like it. And then people will like it. But don't try to, go pop with it. Like, oh, what's a good middle ground? Just do what makes you excited. And so I've been doing that the past couple of years. These recordings have not been released yet, but it's really leaning into finally being my own voice. Thank God, So that's where I'm at these days. Hopefully in the next 6 months to a year, you guys will be able to hear it.
I mean, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear everything that's coming out, because it sounds like it's really, you've really put everything into it, and it's really the right thing this time.
I hope so. My path has been much longer than I wish. I mean, Jacob's 26 now, and he's already doing these things. I'm 35 going, man, did I miss my moment? But everyone has their own journey. Yeah. Totally.
It's funny you mentioned that. That's crazy that you grew up with Thundercat. Thundercat's another one of my inspirations. Incredible musician.
Hey, I mean, he's one of my favorite people on planet Earth, and he knows that, and I adore him, and I'm grateful to him. I love him.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, one of the other things that I really wanted to talk to you about was one of my favorite projects that you're involved in is Evan and Zane.
Oh, you guys did your research. Cool. Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Not even really did my research. I've been a fan for ages. To be honest, I've known about you for a while due to all the work that you've done with huge artists. I've also been a big fan of Evan's because obviously she's the star of Westworld, which is a gigantic show.
Such a great show, man. Oh man.
Yeah, and she's incredible in it. But when I first found out about the collaboration between you two, it kind of blew me away because the whole concept of the different themes for different shows. I'll get onto that in a minute. Yeah. But I'd love to know how that all came about. You and Evan.
I love it. So Evan, the band that I had, which we were referring to, Carney, when we were signed to Interscope, they had a budget, of course, for music videos. And so we did a music video called Love Me, Chase Me. And we were wondering who's going to play the girl in this wonderful video that was written and directed by our good friend from high school, Timothy Garrett, who's now gone on to do great things in many fields. So we thought, who should the girl be? And my brother had just gotten cast as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, in Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Broadway. And our band Carney had been cast as the onstage rock band because U2 wanted a real rock band, and they felt fortunate that they had found a rock band who could sight read songs, right? Because they needed, in Broadway, you got to sight read. So all of us are sight readers and jazz players. So we're all set to do this Spider-Man show. Who's cast as MJ in the show? At the time, it was Evan Rachel Wood. She was going to play MJ on Spider-Man on Broadway. And the reason was Julie Taymor was directing it. Julie Taymor had directed Across the Universe, of which Evan was a star. So there was all these relationships and connections. So we met on the set of the Love Me, Chase Me music video. She was our star. And hey, what's up? And we started talking, and within 2 minutes, it was like, you like Disney movies? Yeah, I do too. Cool, we're best friends. I love you. Be my best friend. I'm super into Alan Menken compositions. I love Disney movies. And, secondary dominance, am I right or am I right? Leading tone, first inversion triad, am I right or am I right? Go to the sixth chord. All right. Anyway, so we started talking about Lady and the Tramp. We both shared a love of that film. And then we just became friends. And then over the years, talking about gigs, talking about singing, she texted me once and said, hey, man, no, I texted her. I said, hey, do you want to come sit in on this residency I'm doing at Black Rabbit Rose? Yeah, sure. So she sang a song. Next day, she wrote me, hey, Valentine's Day is coming up. We should do a broken-hearted Valentine's Day show the day after Valentine's Day for people who are single. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. She picked the set list. I learned the songs and did what people see on my Twitch streams. I live learned them myself, because no one was watching at that time. Charted them out, learned them, orchestrated them live, improvised them live, looped them live, and we did the show. And it sold out, because for a few reasons. And Evan, yeah, next day she texted me. She's like, wow, that was really fun. I said, yeah, it really was. I put up a video on Instagram and I just called it Evan and Zane. And she said, that's actually a good band name. I said, yeah, it is. Huh, all right. And so then we did a gig a couple weeks later, and then that sold out. And she was like, is this a band? I said, I think it is. And then we've done like 20 themes. We've learned 400 songs. We do a big Halloween extravaganza every year at El Rey Theater when COVID hasn't ruined the world. And yeah, that's how that band started. And there's some fun things on the horizon with that band, I believe. So yeah, it's a really fun project.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. I mean, last year, I'm based in London, Amir's based in Birmingham, but last year
Yep.
I went on a little road trip across the US, and we stayed in LA for a while. And obviously, you play a lot of gigs in LA, and
Yeah,
I was
I
really
do.
hoping to catch a set because I really enjoy the stuff that you do.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
I'm grateful you like that band and get it, because I think in the beginning people thought, is this like karaoke? Is this a cover band? It's like, not really. We do themed shows. So
Exactly.
and then we dress up a certain way because it brings out my love of acting and theater, and with the lighting, and Evan's an absolute creative directorial genius. So the backdrops and all this stuff, and yeah, it's a really fun project. It's not a cover band, and I love doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, you did a few live streams over the last couple of weeks, haven't you? I checked those out as well. They're all fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
that's from my broadcasting studio, which is what this studio's become. It's like 2020, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, when you decide in set lists for those shows, is there any songs that are constantly in there that have to stay every time? Or is it different every song?
It's different every time. Yeah. So for Halloween shows, we do Creep every year, and
Yeah,
we
'cause I've-
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
seen a
that one
few
we'll
covers of
keep
that.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for whenever we have a new theme, we have like 10 new themes. We were just texting a couple days ago, like, oh, what about this theme? What about that theme? So when we're able to do shows again, we're probably going to do like once a month or once a week. I don't know. We're just going to go nuts on it because we love it. And apparently people enjoy listening to it. And it's really cool because Evan is an absolute chameleon, but she also has so much artistic intention and integrity that she can't, even if she were trying to sing a Jefferson Airplane record like them, it still has her soul and her thing. She's so incredibly genius. And then what I bring to it is, I can't play a song the same way twice unless someone's paying me to and says you must. But I'm like, in general, I don't like to. And so each show we have magical surprises to both of us, and that's fun. I like. It really gives me a great place. It's a blank canvas for me to not worry about songwriting and singing and all the stress of promoting and stuff. It's just, okay, I come in. And I'm not just a guitar player because we have no drums or bass. It sounds, I think, sometimes like a full band, but it's just me. So I get to do all my pedals and I get to do my loops and tricks, and it's just creatively such a fun project, man. I'm so grateful that we have that band.
So I mean, something that you mentioned, how you met Evan as well, was through the Spider-Man Broadway production.
Yep.
So tell us a bit about that. So I mean, I've never done anything with musical theatre. I don't think it's not something I've naturally gravitated towards, but it's something that always sounds pretty interesting. Just because of the way it is for a musician, there's no strict structure with anything, is there? In terms of the way
It's interesting. I will say, as positive as I seem in my dialect or dialogue, I am hyper judgmental and too critical and cynical most of the time. And so there was a time in my life where I thought musicals are lame. They're so cheesy. They're so stupid. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I had a rough day. I had a rough day. Like, stop. Why are we singing? What is happening here? So I was a real hater. Also, I was a jazz snob from 12 to 19. To the degree to which I thought that Jimi Hendrix was a joke and terrible. I was a total idiot. I was just a jazz snob. So yeah, I was a hater, but then I realized I loved Disney movies, and I loved harmonic motion, like I will show the world. I love those moments. I think we all do. Those like first inversion triads going to the sixth chord. So I realized, okay, maybe I don't hate musicals. And then I started to hear musicals that I actually didn't hate, like Pippin or Hair. I'm like, okay, there's something here. And then we got cast in Spider-Man. It was a rock musical. It was like they wanted a real rock band. It was written by U2 and Bono and Edge from U2. So it had a rock thing. So I started to open up to it. And now I really actually appreciate musical theater. Yeah, a lot. I think there's a lot of depth. I mean, to be able to really tell a story in song is tremendously challenging. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the harmonic compositional film score elements in it. And as far as working in a musical, it was one of the harder gigs I've done. There are three gigs that really changed my life, maybe four actually. Carney, my band, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Broadway, the John Diversa Big Band, and John Mayer. Those are the four gigs that kind of set me off in my career path at the different points. I couldn't have done two of those without being a serious sight reading jazz musician. Like I wouldn't have had those opportunities. So I would have had to pass two of my major life things because I couldn't read. So I'm really grateful that I put in the time to read and really learn how to do that. So that's what's hard about Broadway. Now, I've said this in a couple interviews before, but never specifically. I think this podcast, the listeners would appreciate this because there's so many musicians that listen to this. We had a really challenging situation in Spider-Man. So I was on stage for the first 6 months of the show before, unfortunately, Julie Taymor was let go as the director, and we had Phil McKinley come in. And at that point, the show changed dramatically, and I moved to the pit. When I was on stage with our bass player, Aidan Moore, also from Carney, we both had to learn music every day, and we were highly discouraged from having sheet music in front of us. So we had to learn whatever we were rehearsing during previews and then put it on the stand and not look at it so we could perform on stage. And I'm talking, there were major changes happening. So we get a list of stuff. I have some behind me in that music sort of storage area. I have notes that are 20 notes long. Measures 13 through 17 in song number 3 are now tacit. Measures 14 to 27 are now up a whole step in song number 7. Song number 8, measures 35 through 36 are now vamp. Like crazy notes, and we had to not read that. We had to be on stage performing it every day with changes. So it was incredibly challenging. I don't know many people who could have done what Aidan did on stage there, and maybe myself too. It was really... They specifically needed people who looked rock and roll and cool and performative, who could also sight read like crazy, who could also memorize like crazy. It was like every tool was being used. It was hard, man. I have nightmares about it still. I really do. I wake up and I'm not even kidding. I wake up in sweats like, oh shit. But we did it and we succeeded, and the show was kind of a hit for a couple of years. So thank God, geez. Stuff.
Definitely. I mean, it's just giving me anxiety just thinking about all that stuff you had to do there.
And that's some of the issues we had. I mean, there was, dude, also I had this whole thing I built a rack unit of 50 guitar pedals, all my sounds with a ground control thing built it myself. And then 2 weeks before opening, Edge comes down with his guitar tech Dallas. Hey Zane, hey, so we're going to go to a Fractal Axe Effects. I'm like, what? We are opening in 2 weeks. Yeah, just take the unit home and program it like your analog stuff. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, sir. Oh God. It was so stressful. But we did it. And I like being someone who can help bring a vision to life, whether it's my own vision or someone else's. So, I'm getting hot right now. I'm getting verklempt.
It's a big part of being a jazz musician, or just being a musician in general, right? Just welcoming the challenge, I guess.
You're right. And that's all right. You know, when I talk to people, I give private lessons too. I'll give them on stream or privately. And what I encourage the most is if you're at the age of like 12 to 22, like someone goes, well, what should I focus on? Like kind of everything, because once you're paying bills and you're an adult, it is a different experience of how much time you can give to it. And man, just if you're wondering, oh, maybe I'll focus on my jazz stuff when I'm 30. It's like you can, and you can become the best. I mean, Charlie Parker started playing when he was 19. So yeah, you can totally do that. But if you want the easier path, if you're lazy like I am, start as soon as possible and get that theory stuff down and get the sight reading down and get the orchestrating and arranging down. I've also had students who go, I don't think I'll need that. Just show me how to play that guitar solo you did with Mayer on Dear Marie. I don't think I need to learn how you did it. Just give me the fish. Don't teach me how to fish. And I go, well, okay, you could be stealing everyone's gigs, or I guess not. You just want to play that one solo, that's fine. And that's okay if that's what you enjoy. But if you want to be a professional, I think the great enemy of becoming a working musician is saying, I don't need to learn that, you know? Well, I'm a guitar player. Why would I need to learn how to sing? Why? It's like, well, if you're bringing that attitude into it, good luck becoming a Jacob Collier. That's never going to happen. I mean, how about saying, that seems fun and new and interesting. Let me learn that. What if I would have said, I don't need to learn how to orchestrate for a violin? Well, I worked with Katie Malou on the Jimmy Kimmel Show and had to rearrange an entire orchestra for 4 strings. How would I would have said no to that gig. Oh, yeah, I would love to have you in the John Diversa Big One. You're such a great jazz player. Do you read? Nope. Okay, well, you're not going to be Grammy nominated one day, and all that cool stuff that you want to have is never going to happen. So being able to say yes is a really, really important thing, and for me has been the reason I've stayed afloat as an artist. You know, 100% professional artists from age 8 on is because of that curiosity. So when I'm teaching someone, they go into the sort of negative, like, I don't need to learn that. I'm never mean. I'm not that like slapping the wrist guy, but I'll go, I would just highly encourage you to reconsider that, because I think if you're coming into it with an attitude of, I only want to learn these 5 things, not those 3, one day you're going to hit a roadblock and not be able to keep making music professionally. And that's, none of us want that, so those are my thoughts.
I mean, this is kind of playing on 2 parts to what you mentioned before. I mean, one big thing is, when you're learning to be a better guitarist, you don't want to just look at the guitarists. You want to look at the singers. You want to look at the brass players, the trumpet, saxophone. Learn how to phrase like them, and really dig in musically on that level. Because a sax player is not thinking what fret to hit; they're just thinking of melody and notes. But I mean, with lessons as well. Like, I think the best lessons I ever have are the ones where I don't even pick up the guitar, just talk concepts.
And I took so many. I studied with Oz Noy for a little bit, and I studied with, Frank Potenza at USC. And my favorite lessons were just listening and learning. And I think a lot of it comes down to also, and I identify with this and relate, is the letting go of the hubrism or the ego. That's hard to do. So when someone says you could learn this, if my first reaction is, ouch, that hurts, I'm a piece of crap, I'm never going to be good enough, that makes sense, totally natural. But my next response, hopefully, is not to create a hardened shell of ego. Like, well, screw you guys. I'm the best at this. So you guys suck. I don't care about you guys. If that's the internal dialogue, that is the antithesis to making collaborative, connected music. So I like to make my first thought, okay, I don't know how to do this. Instead of caking up with hubrism and ego, how about I think, okay, I'm curious now. So what is this new thing? What is this new thing I have no idea to do? I was judging, Destiny's composition challenge, and this one composition, it'll remain nameless because I'll be voting in the rounds coming up. But I was like, not only is this so good, I honestly want to get in touch with this guy and take a composition lesson from him. I don't know that I could even close to communicate these ideas. They're all in my head. I just don't have the Sibelius set up yet, or the keyboard set up to properly do the MIDI stuff, and I need that to be able to communicate it. And otherwise I'll be behind the 8 ball writing it out in pencil, and that's cool too, but that might take 3 years versus he did this in 2 weeks. And I want that. I want my ideas to be that immediate. So even in my position where I've been so lucky to work with people, I continue to stay curious, because then I can learn, I was never the guy who walked into the jazz jam session rooms at USC or at gigs or places, coming in with that, like, I'm the dude, But when I started thinking about it, in LA, growing up in LA, there weren't many LA guitar players. So I maybe could have had that attitude. There was, Charles Artura, there was me. I mean, Blake Mills wasn't playing jazz. So it was like, I don't know, who's a guitar jazz player in LA, really, that isn't flying in to go to USC. And even there, I was lucky to be, one of the more working in the jazz community guitarists. So, because I think at 19, I started playing with John DeVersa. So I was kind of out of the gate doing that stuff. But I never thought that way. I never thought, what's up, guys? Yeah, Zane's in town. How you doing? I came in the same way Steven Bruner came into rooms. Hey, guys, how you doing? Everyone knew Steve was the baddest. Everyone knew it, but he came in nice. He never came with attitude. So that curiosity, I mean, that's where it's at for me. And so far it's paid off as far as being lucky to work as a musician. I'm hopeful it'll pay off in the next few years to where my working as a musician is pretty much purely creative work, not hired gun work. And we'll see if that pans out. I mean, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it will. But what you've just mentioned about curiosity brings me back to when we had Domi and JD Beck on. They told us a story about how they met, and it was they made a joke about initially hating each other because, Domi's got this, she went to the Paris Conservatory at the age of 4 or whatever, and JD Beck was in Dallas doing his or Texas doing his hip hop stuff. And when they first met, it was like a clash of styles.
Right.
And they joked about hating each other, but they said it was all about curiosity and getting to know each other, and that's why they're such like a shit hot duo now. They're so
they're
good.
So great.
She mentioned they're incredible. She mentioned when she went to Berkeley that there was this this attitude of musicians there that was the opposite to what you're talking about. There weren't very curious people, and that's where she differed. She said that she'd go home and she'd sit in a room and she'd shed for 7 hours a night,
right?
Whereas everyone else would be partying. And I think it shocks me because when you think about Berkeley, or when I think about Berkeley, I think of the top tier of musicians in education. And then Domi comes out and says, like, that's not what it's like. It's the same everywhere else. There's the top tier and there's bottom tier and there's everybody else in between. But the ones that work hard will be the ones that get the most out of it always.
It's just like with athlete. I love athletics, and I love watching it. For a couple of reasons: the teamwork, the collaboration, but also when someone just dunks, which I would compare some of Jacob Collier's harmonic moments. Like, oh, you just dunked. That was just holy how. What is happening with this super Lydian moment? What is happening here? But then also he'll just win by doing a beautiful song. She's out of my life at that jam card thing. He just wins. That's just winning a game. It's not totally crazy impressive. It's just beautiful. So. Yeah, when it comes to this thing that Domi said, which I relate to and agree with, it's those guys like even Dwayne The Rock. I mean, I in my mind I'm cynical about him, like, oh, he's just a celebrity, he's lame. But at the same time, he does have muscles, and maybe there's some steroids going on, probably is performance, but still, he's going to work every day. If you just take the steroids and don't work, you're not going to get those muscles. So same with music. If I don't put in the time, I'm not going to get the results. Now that being said, I'm in awe of JD. Beck and Domi figuring this out so young, because they're already creating. Lewis Cole figured it out. We both went to USC together, and we figured, we had a conversation 5 years ago before things really broke for him. I have struggled in those areas that my friends have succeeded, because I think I have a little bit more anxiety when it comes to security. And that's a kind of a child actor common wound, I need to stay safe. And so for me, what's safe? Being a hired gun. Hey, Mayor wants to call? Sure. Johnny Lang wants to call? Sure. I'll do the job. And thankfully I've found collaborative creative things with Carney and Evan and Zane, my solo stuff along the way, Avril writing with her. But in general, it's something I have to work on that they've solved. I'm like, they're so about the art. And I also have been, but in a different way. So I actually learned from them. I'm watching them going, okay, they are not as afraid as I am. I know I have that fearlessness. Anyone who's ever heard me do a guitar solo knows that I have that fearlessness. I'm willing to make every mistake possible to find something that's unique and different and truly me in that moment. But man, once I put that guitar down, I'm full of fear. So I got to work on that. So I'm going to take that wisdom she said to heart. But again, I also relate to it, because while I may not have done 7 hours straight like someone like Domi, and you hear it in her playing, I've spent every waking moment being curious. That's kind of my thing. At age 5 years old, my graduation thing when you're 5, the quote was, want to know why? That was my quote in the yearbook. I love figuring out stuff. I do magic. I do all this nerdy stuff. I love figuring out stuff works. So when I'm on a flight, I'm seeing the fretboard in my head and hearing a major 7 sharp 5 chord and experiencing that. And that's just my daily life. I haven't been as much the 7 hour in a practice room guy as just kind of all day seeing it in my head and exploring it. And when someone says, ouch, that hurt, I sometimes hear music with that and I go, oh, that might be, ouch might hurt, that hurt might be I'm out of tune. That feeling where it's like, ouch, that hurt, like a minor 7 going to minor 6, that kind of a little bit feels that way to me, based on how that one person said it back in 1999. I want to have that feeling now. Let me put that into music. So that's been more my curiosity than being a master technician. But I wish I do want to get my technique better, because I used to think I was good at technique, and then Instagram came, and I'm like, oh God, I suck. Cool, very nice, good to know. Very good. Thank you, Manuel, for teaching me that. Holy crap, how fast can a right hand go? All that stuff he does, beautiful stuff.
I mean, this is a thing, right? I mean, the first thing I want to touch on, you were talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson on steroids. I mean, I can get cancelled for it, whatever, I don't care. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's on it. But Jacob Collier is on the music equivalent of steroids. I'm convinced of that. He's on something. He's taking some ADHD medication. We all need some of it.
Right. Give me whatever you have. Yeah. I'll take it.
Comparing yourself to others is such
so toxic.
It's so toxic, and like you mentioned with Instagram, like it's something we all tell ourselves we're not doing, and we're doing it. We're lying to ourselves when we say that. Yeah, totally,
man. I'm fully a victim. No, I'm not a victim actually. I find myself, when I say that story to myself, I'm really in trouble, and I say that story to myself like 99% of the days the past 5 years. I'm a victim. No, I'm actually not. But I played that victim mentality. It's so toxic, and it doesn't help anyone. It certainly doesn't help me, but it also doesn't help friends of mine who continue to text me, whose names shall remain nameless. Hey man, when's your record coming out, man? I really think you got some good going on. I want to hear it. Because that fear has kept me to where I've been lucky to have sold out shows in LA, Hotel Cafe residency, and then, sold out Troubadour pre-sale. Then almost sold out El Rey. These are things that I go, I'm doing well. But deep down, those are actually kind of expressions of fear, because I'm selling out these shows without any record out, without like what am I doing? What am I afraid of people judging? Or am I afraid that if I release it privately and don't play my cards perfectly, then my story won't happen the way it was supposed to? So if anyone's listening to this podcast having those questions, I am right there with you. I am right there. And I think, I to be frank, and again, to remain nameless, I have friends who are wildly mainstream successful who have these concerns too. I'll never be a Beatles. I'll never be a Paul McCartney. And Paul McCartney's probably going, man, I'll never be Jesus Christ of Nazareth or whatever. There's always someone you can ruin your life on. A friend once told me, compare and despair. So if we compare, we're despairing. Because either we're better than them, and deep down in our human core, we're like, we feel bad about that, about trying to be better than someone, or we're worse than them, and then we're just even worse. So either way, it doesn't work. And yet I think I've done that all day today until we had this conversation. So thank you for reminding me and offering me a little bit of healing by remembering to not do that.
So I think there's actually two things here as well. So I suppose the first thing is to address that. So I saw a Julien Lage masterclass about just practice in general and mindset, mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best bits of advice he gave was actually write down your thoughts as you're practicing, and you'll notice as you're writing it down, you're probably really shit talking yourself. You're saying this is rubbish, this is the worst thing ever, but record it as well, and then play it back to yourself, and you realize it's really not that bad, and it's it's a lot better than you think. And this goes for anyone that's tuning in, listening, checking it out. But the other part is about Paul McCartney, and what does he make himself? I actually happened to have, I'm pretty sure I read it was either in a book or it was an article. Someone asked him, do you think you're successful? And he said his answer was, well, success is what you make of it. So, and what I take from that is, well, everyone's successful if they consider themselves to be, in so many different ways.
Yeah, and we are that's beautifully put, and we are such story creating machines. Like meaning and purpose are our driving thing. And because of that, I find myself making up stories because that's what we do, I guess, as humans, and that they are often not true. I mean, I think it's almost plausible to say that they're never true because who's to prove it? I mean, let's take this scenario. If I go, and I'm also really interested in science, like I'm incredibly passionate about maths and sciences. I took calculus like second and third semester of calculus in high school because I'm obsessed.
I want to get on one
with
knee
math.
for you right now. I'm a big maths and science fan.
Really?
But yeah.
Man, people say, music theory and math, they're perfect. I don't know if that's true, but I do happen to be one of those convergence. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, man, I love it. One of my favorite things I took from calculus class was this concept of the limit as h approaches zero. Like the line length doesn't exist, and yet by pretending maybe it would exist, the zero, absolute zero, we can find the exact volume of like a three-dimensional odd shape. It's like, what? How? This is so incredible. So anyway, I'm digressing. So I as a math nerd, what was the point I was trying to make about astrophysics. So I'm really interested in Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan and all these things, and rest in peace Stephen Hawking. So the idea that this is I didn't matter. Paul McCartney says what is success? Well, in 3 billion years, I got bad news for everyone watching this. This planet will have been enveloped by the sun. Okay, it will be gone, this planet. So maybe by then we'll have gone to another planet, another star system. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Is it possible? I think it's possible. So what's it all going to mean in the end? And so the connection, the actual right now, that's it, baby. That is it. So you and I were having a conversation. Does me being a good guitar player, or even am I even a good guitar player? Some have said that. I don't know if I am. Does that matter right now? No, it doesn't exist right now. And that's why jazz is so beautiful, because it just all exists in that moment. Then it's gone, right? So I look at this and go, yeah, I'm so narcissistic. I am so incredibly megalomaniacal at times that I make it all about myself and how everyone's looking at me. Zane, this is the story I tell myself, and this may help listeners. It may make them be worried for me. Don't be worried for me. I have support networks to process these feelings. Music's one of them. Therapy's another. Good friends and family is another. So what I think in my mind is my friends who are successful, again, I'm trying to remain nameless, who are just massive people. My thought is that they're in their mind thinking about me a lot. And what they're thinking about me is, what a disappointment. He has all the talent to just be the next Jeff Buckley or the next whatever, a massive, I mean, why wouldn't he be up there with Jacob Collier? He does all this similar stuff, and he's just not, he wasted it. What a disappointment Zane's been. It's like, that's the story I tell myself. Meanwhile, outside, my best friend's like, dude, are you kidding me? Everyone would kill to have your career. You've worked with everyone. You understand how to explain music. You're helping others learn it. You play it. You have a, like, what are you smoking? I'm like, I'm smoking what's called narcissism. And it is a bitch. It is not good. Because the funny thing is, that's actually a narcissistic thought, that I'm thinking everyone's thinking about me. Even though it's a negative self-talk, I'm convinced everyone's just waking up, let me text Zane and remind him that we made it and he didn't because he's a failure. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. People are too concerned with themselves. And we're all eventually, I'm not trying to be morbid, but rather hopeful, we're all going to die one day, and then the planet will eventually go. It's like, why do I think legacy is so important that I need to beat myself up every day? All it's doing is stopping me from releasing my music that I've been sitting on for 5 years. It's doing a really good job of stopping me from creating. So I'm in awe of people like JD and Domi. I'm in awe of people like Steven Bruner. I'm in awe of just friends I have in the music community, Lewis Cole. I'm in awe of these people who have pushed past that fear that I'm hopeful to encroach upon one day. I hope so.
No, mate, you're doing the right thing by being completely aware of it as well, and by vocalizing it. You sort of
take away its power a little bit.
Directly acknowledge it.
Right.
Yeah,
totally,
definitely.
man.
And I think that's something that helped me as well, was very much what you have as well, in terms of like, oh, that person's looked at me, they must have something they want to say. Or
my godmother, but I know we're getting towards the end of this interview. My godmother has this beautiful saying. So she's my chosen godmother. I have many of them because I've had many strong, beautiful, empowering women in my life, and this was my dialogue coach on Dave's World as a kid. So, yeah, we talked, we talk all the time, but we talked a couple years ago, and she said, you know what I learned, Zane? And I'm not some guru. I don't know. What do I know what I'm talking about? But I learned this. At 20, you think everyone's thinking about you, okay? No, I'm sorry. 20, you're worried about what people think about you. 20. At 40, you don't really care as much about what people think about you. You kind of get rid of over that. And then at 60, you realize no one was thinking about you the entire time. They were thinking about themselves. That's how all of our perspectives work. So I'm hoping to get to 60 years old at 35, which is where I am now, where I go, right, everyone's so consumed with themselves. They're not sitting waking, thinking about how much of a disappointment Zane's been. They're thinking about how much of a disappointment they've been. And they're wondering if I'm thinking about them that way. But I'm too busy worrying about myself. No, man, this judgment crap's got to end. And I think in the arts, we have a special chance to address it. Now, someone like Jacob comes along with this beautiful thing, and it does, to some musicians, become competitive. Oh, can I compete? And there is some healthy competition, I think, between like the Beatles and the Pet and the Beach Boys and things like that. But I think in general, it's not a competition. It's, okay, this person put in the work through curiosity to discover those sounds. What sounds are you going to discover with your curiosity? I wonder. I'd like to hear those. And those sounds might not be, and it might be, well, I always I just wrote that now. That could be your song. It might be a one-note song with space that gives someone a space to breathe because that's what they need. What's it going to be for you? So who knows? Let's get curious, and we want to find out.
So, I mean, I know we're sort of reaching the end of this now, so I won't go down this rabbit hole, but there's very much, if anyone's tuning in, checking this out, check out a book called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner. He very much talks about exactly that, just the beauty of like treating it like a meditative thing. You should not get anxiety playing music, because we all forget why we play it. We play it because we love the instrument, we love playing music, and one of the exercises he teaches in that is play one note. Just play one note and listen to it, and really listen to it, really appreciate the beauty of that note. And I just urge everyone to try it, and you will feel
I love that
for yourself. Yeah.
I have that book on my shelf. I bought it when I was 19. I still haven't read it. 19 years later, whatever it is. I got to read that book, man.
It's so good for the soul. I mean, yeah, so with a lot of that, I suppose we'll start closing out. You've got a residency on Veeps, I think.
Yes.
So just tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So yeah, if I can give a little bit of a backstory, when the pandemic hit, I was planning on getting back into acting. So I've been auditioning, and I had about 6 auditions. I was very lucky to get some callbacks, and then I booked my first role as an adult, not a kid, which was going to be Claude in Hair the Musical in LA. So I was real excited. I got to play guitar in the show too a little bit. They're like, we're not going to put you in the show, not play a little guitar. But I was acting, I was singing. And the pandemic hit, I think March, 11th in LA, we shut down. And that meant we didn't open the show. We may open it in the next year, hopefully. But we closed that. And we were supposed to open the show, I think, March 20th. So we just missed our opening date. So I was going, all right, well, I spent the past 6 months prior to that at UCB taking classes, at Howard Fine taking classes, at HB Studio in New York taking classes, really getting back into my curiosity around the acting art form. And oops, crap, what am I going to do? So I was not praying about it, really. I need to do more of that these days. I was talking in therapy about it, to be frank. A form of active prayer, potentially. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, everything got shut down. We were all freaking out. And I realized maybe I should be streaming because I love performing. I really do. And let's see what happens. So I bought this fancy camera, and then I got my mics. I already had my mic set up, and I set it up. And slowly a Twitch audience started to develop. The reason Veeps is coming up now is I was going, all right, well, Twitch is amazing. I love Twitch. I love connecting with the community. They're so generous to me. They do these live learns and donate to the channel. They subscribe to my channel to help, an artist stay alive during these weird times. But live performance is really kind of my most practiced skill. And Twitch is not perfect for live performance. It's good for what I'm doing. I think the live learns and music theory of gaming and that. But really getting into the mode of performing, it's tough when there's a chat going and people are waiting for your attention. So I found this website, veeps.com. My friend created it, and they do ticketed live streams. They're cheap. They're $10, and it's if I have 60 people there, that's a huge win. That's awesome for live music. That's a win. There's no venue that's taking a cut. It's like, thank you. All right, I'll perform for you. So what I decided is to do a residency every Monday night with a different theme. Not Evan and Zane style themes, a little different. So I've done blues, I've done jazz, I've done my old band Carney. I did an entire set of just Carney songs, did Beatles songs. This upcoming week after the podcast comes out, I think I'm doing Twitch live learns. So a lot of the live learns I've done on the channel, I'll be doing a smattering of those. The week before the show comes out, which is for me right now, we're doing my favorite songs. So that's coming up. And I'm probably going to extend this until live music comes back. So this will kind of be a way for people who have been wanting to experience live music to have it. I've invested in the sound. I've invested in the camera technology. I've invested in the Mac Pro streaming thing. I've invested to make it as intimate and as connected for the audience so everyone feels like they're in the front row. And they've been going really well. And I'm really excited people have been choosing to tune in. So that's Veeps. That's going on every Monday. And then I stream Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at 3 p.m. every week on Twitch. And we do whatever comes up each day. Live learns, music theory of gaming, conversations with collaborative streamers. It's quite a fun, full-packed week each week of work.
Yes, and that's 3 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. GMT, which is UK time.
Correct.
What the Eastern time is that plus 5 hours?
Eastern Standard Time, it would be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time
6 p.m.
each
Eastern
Monday.
Standard Time, yeah. So, everybody check it out. Thank you very much for hopping on the call, Zane. It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, this has been such an experience, just talking to Twitch chat and talking to you at the same time. It's actually really cool, man.
It's cool. You guys have 134 people, hearing this live, and then you'll have many more. It's so cool. Yeah. Twitch is so great, I'm telling you.
No, I mean, we've got so much more to talk about. We didn't even touch on John Mayer. We didn't touch on video games. I mean, we'll go be a next time for sure. But
let's do it next time. I'd love that.
Yeah, definitely. But thanks.
And I can't wait to hear you play it. Joseph, let me hear that hot jazz, baby. Let me hear that.
Come on, do the lick. Do the lick.
All right, let me finish with the lick.
Yes. We should do it live together.
Yes, we should.
Can we have latency? Can we not have latency? It's gonna be so much latency.
Shall I count
what's
you
the
in?
lick?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh wow! You better hammer on. What'd you do? Oh yeah, you better hammer on it. You better slide it. I love that. Oh my god, that's fantastic. One of the live learns we did recently was a George Benson song, and dude, I don't know if you've ever transcribed his stuff, but he is the king of doing a minor 7 arpeggio down a fourth on a chord. So if he's like B minor 7, he did the Wes Montgomery thing of F sharp minor 7 arpeggio. over B minor 7, and I was transcribing it. Man, he does some crazy stuff. He had this one run that's like, it's not that hard. I mean, it's a pretty standard bebop lick, but it was up tempo. Something like that. And I was like, okay, George, I need to transcribe more of you. But that lick you just played gave me some George Benson feelings. I appreciate that.
Brilliant.